Hi, how are you? Good? I'm good, thank you for asking. My name is Murilo. I'm from Brazil. I'm a sucker because I use Apple and Facebook and this stuff. And in Brazil, I work as a speaker, I work as a comedian, I host a TV show at Comedy Central, and I would like to talk about creativity and empathy and future. But before starting to talk about this, I'd like to tell a little about my background, my story, and my journey through creativity, empathy, and future. So, in the late 90s, internet was beginning in Brazil, and I created a website. I was a teenager. I created a website that got very popular in Brazil. I won contests of the best website in Brazil. It was an entertainment portal. It's a porn website, and not porn. I used it to scan Playboy pictures and put on the internet. And I was a teenager, idiot, and Playboy didn't have a website, so my site got popular because of this. And then, after this website, I started a career with internet, doing lectures. I wrote a book about internet, and then I founded a company. It's a web development company, and I created a startup, and then my company got big, and my turning point day in my life was my graduation from business administration. I was a class speaker, and I thought that I should do a interesting and funny and creative speech. And so far, I had like 10 years of career, but I've never done anything funny in my life. So I decided to study why people laugh. Why people laugh? And I studied, and I wrote a speech, and it was very interesting. And I saw my colleagues laughing at me, and I thought it was amazing, this new emotion. And after the graduation, all my colleagues, they went home like, now I am an administrator, and I went home like, now I'm a comedian. And so stand-up comedy was just starting in Brazil. I was one of the first to do stand-up comedy in Brazil. So I started this career. I kept my company for 2 years. I wrote another book about internet. And then I saw a blue ocean of opportunity in the comedy business. I realized that the companies wanted comedians for their events, but the comedians were not really able to communicate in the language of the companies. So I thought it was a good opportunity for me. So I decided to focus on that, to doing comedy for corporate events, all kinds of companies, all sizes of companies, all kinds of events. And at some point, I was not just doing comedy. I was solving problems, because they came to me with communication problems, engagement problems, and I was solving these problems. So I decided to study problem solving. So I decided to study creativity, because creativity is the best way to solve problems. And I thought, if I studied comedy and it worked, now let's study creativity, the theories about creativity, the methodologies, the processes. And it's an incredible world. And I believe everybody knows this screen. This is the BIOS of the computer. This is the basic software of the computer. It's the software inside the hardware of the computer. And BIOS comes from basic input and output system. And after studying creativity, I realized that creativity is a BIOS, is a basic input-output system. Just as simple as that. Basically, the inputs is your knowledge, your experience, everything you learn in your life, it's your input, and then you process these inputs, then your brain processes, combine these inputs, and then you have the output, is the result, the creative result of this, and then you have the feedback loop to the inputs. So you realize that the output, the creative result, is a consequence. It's all about the inputs and the processing. And the inputs is your knowledge, and as long as you have diversity of inputs, the probability of combining these inputs and having a creative output gets bigger. And I realized that comedians are very good in this basic input-output system, because comedians, they get the habit to see the world in a different way. They look for different inputs. They want to see the world, to see things that usually people are not seeing. And the comedians, they process it differently. They connect the ideas in a different way. And the output, The comedians accept failure. They just go and say and see what's happened. And they value feedback, so they get the inputs with more quality. So I created a theory I call comedy thinking. Is the way comedians think applied to innovation. Just for an example, what's the difference between a woman and a gun? Anyone knows the difference between a woman and a gun? Nobody knows? Really? Nobody knows? Okay, a woman is a person. A gun is an object. Nobody knew that? Really? Okay. A woman is a person. That's the main difference. And a gun is an object. But it's interesting because when I say this, that woman is a person and a gun is an object, I'm using concrete thinking. It's the logical, the rational, the analytic, the specific way of thinking. But it's interesting because when you have this question that starts with what's the difference or what's in common, immediately you turn another switch. You think that, no, I can't answer the real answer. I can't use concrete thinking. I have to answer a creative answer, a joke. Oh, yeah, they are dangerous, or I don't know, you can put a silencer in a gun. So people start thinking in crazy ways. They start thinking in abstract thinking. It's metaphorical, paradoxical, it's gassy, it's dreamy, it's crazy. And my point is, everybody have the concrete thinking switch on. Every time it's on. And suddenly, when you realize it's a riddle, it's what's the difference, what's in common, and then you switch from concrete to abstract thinking. You just switch. And my point is, why you can't just switch back and forth whenever you want? And I believe that comedians, they have this skill, not skill, I'd say habit, to switch to abstract thinking so they can think differently. So this is what I would like to talk about, creativity. And I'd like to come back to my personal story. So I was talking about using comedy in companies, and I kept my comedian regular career. I had a special on Netflix. I did this American TV show in Brazil, the Brazilian version, a reality show. And this year I got a TV show as a host in Comedy Central. But in 2013, I started doing talks. TEDx talks in Brazil and talks for companies using comedy to deliver content. And I was speaking about usually creativity and innovation. And in order to talk about innovation, I had to study future. And this is an amazing book about future called Abundance by Peter Diamandis. It projects a vision of a future, optimistic future. And this book mentions a lot about this school, Singularity University. It's a school that studies futurism, and it's backed by NASA and Google in the Silicon Valley. And when I read about this school, I thought it was very far away from my reality. I mean, I'm a comedian from Brazil, and this is like Silicon Valley and a futurism school at NASA Research Park in Silicon Valley. And I'm curious, so I started researching how it works, how you can apply, and suddenly, boom, I was there. It was an amazing, incredible experience. It's 80 people from 35 countries. We stay like 10 months in an immersive experience, like a big brother at NASA. And I happened to be the class speaker. It was the best day of my life. And this is my Bruce Willis about to save the world picture at NASA, and this is me saving the world. And my important thing is, Singularity University has a challenge. The challenge they give us is how to positively impact 1 billion people in 10 years. How to use technology, exponential technologies, to positively impact 1 billion people in 10 years in these areas. So we had classes about technology, but a lot of talks about the problems. And when we had the talk about the problems, the most heard word was empathy. It was incredible. Every guy that came talk of us, every woman, everybody talk about empathy. And I started studying more about empathy because I thought it was like the same as sympathy. I thought it was the same. And I realized that empathy is more powerful, much more powerful than sympathy. Empathy is like sympathy on steroids. And it's interesting because it's all about feelings. Empathy and sympathy, it's all about feelings, but sympathy, it's about caring. It's caring about people's feelings, but empathy goes further. It's about feeling people's feelings. And sympathy makes you connect to people, and empathy makes you connect with people. And sympathy is like, I feel so sad about them. And empathy is, I know what they are feeling. And the best analogy and the famous expression is like empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes so you can see what they see, you can think what they think, and you can feel what they feel. And this is a very important concept for who works with social innovation. And basically, to get empathy, you can go through regular observation, you can go through engagement, or you can go through immersive experience. Usually, I see a lot of people that create NGOs or foundations because they had a trauma, and now they want to solve this problem. And a trauma is the ultimate immersive experience. That's the ultimate. It's really happening to you. And this is very interesting. It's a tool called Empathy Map. And it's very simple, but it's very powerful if you try to feel this based on the people you want to help. So think about how these people think and feel, what they hear, what they see, what they say, what they do, what are their pains, what are their gains. When you feel this, it's amazing because sometimes you think, oh, I know that. I already know that. I don't need to feel. Yes, you need to feel. When you feel, it's different. And just an example, this is my comedy team in Brazil. We do a presentation on Fridays in Brazil in the hotel. And once a year, I go to the hotel and I don't go on stage. I go on the audience. But not just sitting on the audience. I go through all the process. I park my car where the audience park. I get the parking ticket. I go to the line. I buy the ticket of my own show. I go into the audience and I watch the show, and then I get my car. So I can have full empathy for what is being an audience. Because sometimes maybe your jokes are good, but they had a bad experience in the line to buy the ticket. So they get in the place bored. So, and you think, oh, my joke is bad. No, they had bad experiences. So once a year, I try to do this so I can see what they see, think the way they think, and feel what they feel. Interesting example, a little crazy. Can you put the video, please?
A bola. Horyou, você não vai tirar pro gol, e é gol.
It's a goal.
Golaço, golaço.
It's a goal, but the goal was scored by the goalie. The goalie scored the goal. And the guy is saying in Portuguese like, he's saying, it's impossible to the other goalie to get this ball. It was a really beautiful free kick. They will repeat. It was a really beautiful. And what happens here is that, it's okay, thank you. What happens here, it's very interesting, is that this guy, his name is Horyou from the soccer team São Paulo. This guy, he's a goalie that, can you just switch back to the slides, please? And everybody knows David Beckham for sure. David Beckham, in his whole career, he did 114 goals. This goalie has done so far 123, and he's still playing. Free kicks and penalties. And why he's so good? It's totally empathy. He knows what the other goalie is seeing, what he's thinking, what he's feeling. He has total empathy for the other goalie, and he uses this in his favor. And he uses to defend too. He's a very good goalie because he's empathy for who is shooting too. And empathy and creativity, they together is very powerful because both are tools to solve problems, and empathy is very interesting to identify the problem, and creativity to come up with the solution. If you try to solve the wrong problem, you don't get nothing. So framing the problem in a perfect way is very important. And with empathy, you really identify the problem. Sometimes the problem is not what they tell you. Sometimes people that want help, they tell you something and it's not the real problem. There are latent needs. You need to have empathy to really feel what they feel and identify the real problem. For instance, when the first buildings, really high buildings, skyscrapers started, the elevators, people complained a lot that the elevators were very slow. It took too much time to go up and down, and the people from the building management was receiving complaints about this. And if you receive a complaint that the elevators are slow, the solution for this problem is faster elevators. That's the first solution for the problem. Slow elevators, faster elevators. If the guy from the building decided to explore the problem, he may go into the elevator and calculate the time for going up and down, and he may realize it's like 40 seconds. Come on. What these people are complaining is 40 seconds. And he may get rid of this problem. Oh, I don't care about this. These people are crazy. It's 40 seconds. But you only understand the real problem if you really live the real experience, because just going to the elevator is not the real experience. The real experience is working in the building, having meetings, being in a rush for a meeting, and then these 40 seconds are different. And you know what was the solution for this problem? They put mirrors in the elevators, because the problem was not the time. The problem was not doing nothing in this time. Doing nothing. Now with the mirror, you can get the black hats, you can see your hair, you can go for your tie. So, and people stop complaining. It was about anxiety of like, these 40 seconds are very precious for me, but if I'm doing something, it's okay. And they solved the problem because they had empathy for people that complains. And this is the ultimate version of the mirror. In São Paulo, you have a lot. You have a screen with news, so nobody complains more about the elevator. So that's what I like to talk about, empathy. And as I told you, Singularity is trying to solve some problems. We study technology to solve these problems. And the 4 technologies that we study are these 4: biotechnology, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and robotics. And I like to go deep into the 2, artificial intelligence and robotics, because they both have a huge impact in the jobs market of the future. This is some news. Amazon will have 10,000 robots in the warehouses. What about people that work in the warehouses? The iPhone 6 battery will be built by Foxbot robots. What about people that use it to work in this place? UK allow driverless cars. In Silicon Valley, we see a lot on the streets in California, self-driving cars. What about the drivers? The journalists who never sleep. There's an artificial intelligence that can write news. Not really good news with comments, with interpretation of the news. What about the journalists? And this is Amelia, is an artificial intelligence that is being used a lot in call centers all over the world. And this is a little scary when you think about this stuff, about how artificial intelligence and robotics are taking some jobs. And this is a very interesting paper from Oxford a year ago. It's about these guys created an algorithm to calculate the probability of some occupations being replaced by automation. And they created a ranking. They took 702 occupations and created a ranking. And just for curiosity, the occupation that they concluded has the most probability to be replaced by automation is telemarketers. Because they follow scripts, it's all about patterns, and whenever you have to follow scripts and follow rules, the machine does it better than us. And probably you're curious to know which one is the first one, the most protected. The first one, I'll not talk about it now, so I will keep it upstairs so I remember to talk about later. What I want to talk is the criteria for this ranking. They had 3 criteria for this: perception and manipulation. It's about finger dexterity and stuff that the robots have a hard time to do, and working in awkward positions with dexterity. That's what they call perception and manipulation. I saw some crazy stuff in the Silicon Valley, like this Da Vinci robot that helps surgeries, and the robot got a lot of dexterity. So I'm not pretty sure about if perception and manipulation is something that only humans. But another criteria is creative intelligence. Now I believe so 100% that the machines will have a hard time simulating creativity, come up with ideas that really make sense, that create value. And the third criteria is social intelligence, social perceptiveness, negotiation, persuasion, assisting, and caring. And if you think about all this stuff, all this is about empathy. To negotiate, you need to have empathy for the other side. To persuade, you need empathy. To assist, to care. So that's why I believe that creativity and empathy are very important skills for the future, maybe two of the most important skills of the future, because it's what differentiates us from machines. And back to the first one, that you may be curious. The first one, the most protected occupation based on their criteria, is recreational therapist. Recreational therapist. That's me. Entertainers. So I'm safe. And who else is safe? And the best question is, how much empathy and creativity does your job require? And probably if you're here, you probably work or want to work with social innovation. And in order to work with social innovation, you need empathy in order to have social impact, and you need creativity in order to innovate. So you guys are safe too. So congratulations to you, and thank you very much.